ever achieved 36 to 1 return on investment with your ad spend on Google ads or Facebook ads, I mean, yeah, you'd be laughing all the way to the bank. But this is possible, and it's being seen all the time with email.
One of these myths is to do really good marketing, whether it's this type or that type. In this case, email and SMS marketing, it needs to cost a lot. You need to be a big player, and it's a myth.
And it should put a smile on the face of anyone getting into e-commerce or with an e-commerce business.
Our goal is to allow companies to increase their email sales faster, easier, and for less money.
We all understand that mastering email marketing is more crucial than ever for e-commerce success.
So let's put these insights into action and transform your e-commerce game. Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked podcast. I'm Lewis Smith, the founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Erdley. Now, when we're not recording the podcast episodes, we're running our own e-commerce businesses and helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. Keen to build your own 6 or even 7-figure business? My book, The Home Turf Advantage, is your blueprint for launching a profitable online store. Grab your copy at htabook.com today and let's get you started. Now sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast. Today, we're diving into the essential world of email marketing with Greg Zakowicz, a leading expert from Omnisend. Greg's insights are going to reshape how you think about engaging with your customers through targeted, personalized email strategies.
Exactly, Lewis. Today's episode with Greg is all about revealing how even beginners can harness the power of email to not just reach out, but to truly connect with their audience, turning casual browsers into loyal customers. We'll uncover the foundational steps, first of all, to build an email marketing strategy that will grow your business.
And for those of you eager to kickstart your journey, today's insights will provide a roadmap to making your mark in the e-commerce world. So get ready to learn how to set up your campaigns for maximum impact and engagement. Let's dive right in and discover the keys to successful email marketing.
Today, we're excited to be joined by Greg Zakowicz, who is from Omnisend, an expert in email marketing. And we're going to be putting you through his paces, asking him some questions about how we can enhance the email marketing for our e-commerce businesses. So firstly, Greg, it's fantastic to have you share your expertise with us today.
James, I'm super happy to be here, and I feel like I'm stepping into a gauntlet, so this should be a lot of fun here. So let's roll and see how badly I get beat up.
Awesome. Yeah, not at all. No, it's just to get into that next level with email marketing. So yeah, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how that's led you to the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it somewhat short. I'm an open book. You can Google, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, come and check out everything. But I've been, as crazy as it sounds, I've been in email marketing for almost 20 years now. Kind of happened my way into it. So I was working at a radio promotions company, and we were doing these on-site promotions. We started collecting email addresses and marketing through platforms early on. And then switched over to a different company, which the only type of marketing we did, was email marketing. And back then it was like requesting jQuery segments from the IT department to get your segmented list and things like that. Like, it was nuts, but it really got me into all sorts of different types of testing, plain text emails, HTML emails, and you kind of went through that evolution. Then I launched a side business, online e-commerce store on the side. When I was doing that, kind of learned a little more of the ropes. And I got into consulting for it. Man, just kind of grew up with it. And now I'm with Omnisend. I've been here for a little over 4 years and just watched this phenomenal company grow. And, email doesn't change too much, yet at the same time, it changes a lot, which is kind of weird to say. I think 18 years now in email marketing. So I've seen a lot come and go. I've seen the hysteria around changes, and then the stuff ultimately settles down. So hopefully I'll be a really good resource for you. Kind of talk about the old, the new, and kind of the emergence of those two things now.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very valuable. And I think also doing some of your own e-commerce selling always helps to give you that experience from the other side, from the sellers as well. So I think just to talk a little bit more about Omnisend, because it's obviously a large platform email service provider. But yeah, tell us a bit about your role and what Omnisend really is.
Sure. So my role is doing things like this, but I'm a data nerd. I like jumping in. So I'm looking at data on our e-commerce sellers, different countries, how marketing channels are shifting, how the consumers are responding to those, and then doing educational type things to educate merchants on, hey, you should be doing this instead of this, or how about trying this? Or there's really simple ways to increase email revenue, whether you're a beginner or you've been in it for a long time, that most companies either overlook, they don't pay close enough attention to, things like that. So that's my job, is to hopefully educate those people on what they can do to increase sales faster. OmniSend is a platform, we're email and SMS marketing provider. Our goal is to allow companies to increase their email sales faster, easier, and for less money than the competitors. And one of these myths is to do really good marketing, whether it's this type or that type. In this case, email and SMS marketing, it needs to cost a lot. You need to be a big player, and it's a myth. We talk about it internally, where it's a myth that we bust every day. It doesn't need to be expensive. And that's where OmniSend is kind of built in. We are customer funded. We don't take outside money, which means everything we do is customer centric. If our customers aren't happy, they're going to leave, and that's going to make us unhappy. So the tools we built, the integrations, like the Shopify integrations, these are things that are plug and play. You can integrate a Shopify store in less than 2 minutes, and we kind of do all those things. So our goal is increase your sales faster, easier, and for less. It's a really good platform. And by the way, you can sign up for free, no credit card required. So anyone today who might be interested and just want to give us a little test run, you can go sign up. You don't have to put credit cards or anything down. We have a free plan there as well, where you can kind of play around with stuff and see if it's the right fit for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really helpful always to have a nice low barrier way to test out these tools and see the difference that it makes to your business. But yeah, focusing on data, being a data nerd, as you put it, I think is great, because for this conversation, you can think about all that data that you've come across to really give us some insights as to what works really well. And before we dive into that, I just want to really lay down the foundations for people to understand how important this can be for your business. But yeah, in your own terms, why would you say that email marketing is such a crucial tool for driving sales for e-commerce?
There's a lot of answers to this. I'll try to truncate it. I think the one thing we're looking at now, and it might never happen, it might happen in 2 to 3 years, but you look at the volatility of social media, and there's nothing wrong with social media marketing, right? Every brand mostly does it. They probably should be doing it to some degree, but you look at like the TikTok stuff over in the US, which I am, but you look at even Meta, right? Their automatic Facebook ads over the last couple months, people were talking about it was going crazy. They were burning through cash. Those channels are fine, but you don't quote unquote own that customer relationship, right? They're more of a push channel. I don't jump on to Instagram and check out ads. They're there. I accept it. They intrigue me. I click on them, but that's not the reason I'm going. I'm going for social purposes. Email, SMS, these are first party opt-in channels, and the opt-in is really the crucial part. So, if I go to your website and I get a pop-up that says, hey, join our email list, and maybe you offer me a discount, maybe you don't. I put that email address in there. I put that mobile number in there. It's me telling you, hey, I want your marketing messages. And when I do see those marketing messages, I'm looking at them for a reason. I'm not looking at them because they're in my inbox and they're bothering me. I'm looking because I'm probably interested in shopping or want to see what new products you have. There's already a buyer mindset there. So you already have the intent, the urgency built into it a little bit. It is first party, so you don't have to worry about TikTok being banned, or you don't have to worry about algorithm changes impacting your dollars. You can send an email directly to that customer. You could brand them more. You could be more creative with them, and it's low cost, right? Ads are expensive. Paid search is expensive. These things are expensive. It's a given cost in marketing. Email is not as expensive. SMS is not as expensive. So you have more cost control, but it consistently performs better too. And that goes into the intent of the shopper, the first party thing. Email just performs better. US customers last year with OmniSend, $72 for every $1 spent ROI. Internationally, it was $36. So a little better than the US. 36 to 1 ROI is pretty good. I don't know. I wouldn't complain about that.
Not at all. I mean, if you ever achieved 36 to 1 return on investment with your ad spend on Google ads or Facebook ads, I mean, yeah, you'd be laughing all the way to the bank. But this is possible, and it's being seen all the time with email because of the the fact that you've got people that have opted in to see those emails. So yeah, quite simply, you're leaving money on the table, I think, if you're not, leveraging email and optimizing it, even once you have got it set up. So with all the data that you've seen and you've got an idea of how e-commerce brands are using email, I wonder if there's any familiar things that you see people do wrong, perhaps some opportunities that you see that e-commerce brands can do better. Is there any sort of trends that you see that make you think that there could be opportunities for people to improve?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and we've seen a lot more of this over the last 10 years, especially in the last 5 years, the adoption's really gone up, but there's better places to adopt than others, is using the automation, right? So automation is built into almost every email platform. We have pre-built, that's the one thing, right? Automation, people look at it and they're like, I don't know how to do that. It sounds complicated. You can really set these things up in a matter of minutes. And when I'm talking about minutes, I'm not talking about like 45 minutes, like 3 minutes. You can do these things. They're pretty easy to do. So a shameless plug for Omnisend, but like we have pre-built workflow templates. So if you want an abandoned cart, you want a welcome message, you want a browse abandonment, you want whatever, product review message, we have these things pre-built. You click on them, the things are set up. And you can customize them however you want, but you can create the workflow in 4 seconds. Then you just need to edit the messaging, but we provide pre-built email templates inside the workflows to kind of get you a start there as well. The automation is the number one key to increasing your sales and reducing the reliance on your scheduled campaigns. So last year, I looked at the numbers for Q1, they were right around the same figures, but last year, 42% of all email orders through Omnisend came from automated messages. The amount of email sends that accounted for, 2% of sends drove 42% or 41% of email orders. So I think in Q1 this year, I was just looking at these numbers the other day, Q1 was 38-3. So if you think about this, these are things that are sending automatically. You're sleeping, you're in a business meeting, you're on vacation, they're sending and they're driving revenue for brands. So that is huge. This is the number one place where brands, if you want to look for increased revenue opportunities, the automation's where you go. Now, a lot of automations out. Birthday messages, there's lapsed purchase, there's post-purchase, there's product review, all these things here. So where do we start? 3 series, maybe 4, I would start with. They drive the most revenue. They're the most sent, but where I would advise people to look at the shopping intent customers. So think about where that shopping intent is highest. Cart abandonment, no brainer. They've selected a product, they put in their cart, they're shopping. So cart abandonment messages. Welcome messages, brand new subscribers. They're probably there because they're interested in shopping from someone, might not be you, but they're interested in shopping. So welcome messages and then browse abandonment. So a little less intent with browse. And these are browse abandonment for those that don't know. Think of online window shop. They're on your store, they're checking something out. They don't cart products and then they leave like most people do. I always tell people, they're on your site for a reason. They're looking at products for a reason. They are shopping, right? Or they're interested in shopping later and they want to see what new products are out there. So browse abandonment, cart abandonment, and welcome messages. These are the 3 I would start with. They're going to drive the most revenue, but they're all at those different stages. New customer, new shopper, browser that could re-engage you and get you back to the store, and then cart abandonment. So those are the 3, bar none, every brand should have. Start simple. They don't have to be perfect out of the gate. Send one. If you want to add a second message to it, just go back later, add a second message to it. Your workflow is done. Right? You don't need to recreate the wheel. And those are the 3 that are going to drive the most amount of sales for you, have the most amount of sends. These are also things that they can reduce your retargeting costs. So if you think about what a typical brand does, right? We got a web visitor, paid search retargeting or paid social retargeting, right? Those things we already talked about. They're a little more expensive to email. So how about I get a browse abandonment message that sends out for a fraction of a penny, or, maybe you're spending $12 a month on an email plan. That gets back. It's the same thing as a retargeting message. You get them back. Click rates, conversion rates are extremely high on those things. All these messages well outperform your campaigns. I get you back to the site for a fraction of a cent versus 50 cents, $2 over there. The beauty of Omnisend, so we can automatically sync our customer, going to integrate with Shopify. So you're going to have the Shopify data on there. You're going to have the email, web activity. All this data is in one place, consolidated. We can automatically sync that to like your Meta or your Google ad properties. say, hey, Greg went to my website, sent him this browse abandonment email. We got him back. I can automatically update my retargeting segments through the platform on Meta, Google Ads. Withhold his name, withhold his email address. Don't target this person. Let's save our money here. So we want to reduce our costs overall. So it's a really long answer for you, James. Hopefully you stayed with me. I'll sum it up. Welcome, cart abandonment, browse abandonment. Those are my 3 essentials. I can go into more high-performing ones, but those are the 3 bar none every brand should be doing.
Amazing. No, that's so valuable, knowing that, and it should put a smile on the face of anyone getting into e-commerce or with an e-commerce business, because we often talk about on this channel, on this podcast, about building it as a lifestyle business that we can do with e-commerce. And so knowing that you can make more money with automations, which you can do set once and forget, compared to how much money you can make with one-off campaigns that rely on you to create them every few days, it's great news to know that automations perform better because it means there's less time to put in, but for an amazing return. So just diving deeper into the automations and into the top 3, I think that's where a lot of people's sort of action should go after watching this episode, is really abandoned cart, I think would be number 1. How many emails, just to go more granular into the details of setting this up, how many emails within an abandoned cart flow do you see performs really well?
So I would say 1, obviously, is your minimum, right? Can't have an automation unless you're sending at least 1. So I mentioned before, start small, right? Do what you can. Beauty is these emails don't have to be perfect from day 1. They don't have to be perfect ever. They can be pretty simple. Abandoned cart is probably easiest because, hey, come back, maybe offer a discount. We automatically insert the product in there, have a nice call to action, a couple of value props, which we could talk about. Number of messages. I personally like 4 messages spread out. I'm aggressive. I find 4. That 4th one will still convert for you even after a period of time. You might go, well, they got 3 messages, they're not converting. Find the 4th one that worked really well. I would say at a minimum, I would do 2. Most people will have 2 to 3. Some people, and this is increasing, will go to 4. I like 4, but just do what you can with it. And where I would go is from a timing perspective. I'll give you the consultant's cop-out, James. You should always test your timing, but test everything else. The consultants will tell you, I lived that life. I was there. In some respects, it's true. Timing, I'll give you a good baseline, and then you can tweak it. And the timing is going to differ a little bit based on the price points of the products you sell, right? If you're selling $10 widgets or a $2,000 TV, there's going to be longer buying cycles in there. So factor in your own products, your average order value, things like that. Message 1, I would send it 30 minutes after abandonment. Most people will start an hour, perfectly fine. I want to capture their attention as quick as possible. So I start message 1 at 30 minutes after. Message 2, 12 hours after abandonment. You could do 11 and a half, if you don't want to do the extra 30 minutes on the automation there. But 12 hours for message 2, 24 hours after abandonment, so 12 hours later for message 3. And then I will give a 1-day break to message 4. So I've got 4 messages going in the first 2 days to try to get them back. And you can offer an incentive. You can offer an incentive later. You don't need to offer an incentive. One thing with shopping cart abandonment is, think about yourself, James. I mean, I do it, right? I purposely abandon a lot of things because I want to see if I get a discount later. It's what we all do. But the whole time you're thinking, you're like, oh man, I kind of want that, right? I hope it doesn't sell out. And this is where messaging, sense of urgency, things like this. But the whole time it's in the back of your mind. It's like, oh, I want to buy this. But a lot of times they'll just go back and buy it without the discount. So don't feel you need a discount on abandoned cart, right? As long as you frame the message with a little sense of urgency, with some social proof, make it obvious that, hey, we know you kind of want this, should convert extremely well for you.
Fantastic. It's nice to know that we can just start small and add more to the abandoned cart flow. Now, I imagine there's a graph of how well they perform. And if you continue to add more abandoned carts, emails to your abandoned cart flow, does it eventually lose the power after a certain amount of emails? Is there a reason you stop at 4, or would you consider sort of continuing beyond the initial 4?
I've worked with companies that had like 7 messages. I'm like, oh, it might be overkill. The 7th one still converted. Like, it's nuts, right? So I would say, yeah, with most message series, over time, as you send the messages, you kind of see a slow decline on the performance of them. They'll still convert for it. Now I go, hey, if I convert on the 5th message, great. You shouldn't see a huge drop off. You shouldn't go like this and then it craters on you. So if you're seeing that, it's something, let me take a look at it, right? That's your audience. It's either your timing's off, you don't need the fourth message based on products you sell. Maybe your fourth message is 5 days later and they usually purchase in 3 and you want to shorten that window, right? These are all things to look at, but generally you'll see a little bit of a decline. Now, this is kind of weird. A lot of times you'll see the slight decline from 1 to 2, 2 to 3 drops a little heavier, and then sometimes the fourth one goes up, right? And that's kind of your window that maybe that third one, the timing is maybe a little bit off. Maybe you push the timing of the third one to where the fourth one is, and then you push the timing off to the fourth one, just kind of as the last chance catch all there. These are all small things to look at. You'll never know unless you start automating them, but generally you'll see a little bit of a decline, but they should still be performed.
Yeah, I think it's opportunity. And something you touched on before is how cheap it is to get back in front of the customers. And I know touch points with customers is crucial. So whether that's through your retargeting on social media after they've initially been on your website, but a more cost-effective way that we're suggesting is by getting back in their inbox when they check their emails later that day and remember that they forgot something. So I guess a big part of email and creating these automations is about enhancing the number of connections and touch points that we have with customers.
I mentioned the intent series before, and this is where I would look at if you're a brand and going, okay, say you have all these 3 going here. You're like, Greg, I got them done, right? What do I do next? I look at the intent at that point. I say, okay, what other stages of customer journey would impact our business the most? So some people will go, oh, it's great to build a personal connection. Let's do a birthday message. I love birthday messages. They're not going to convert as well for you. You've got to have the data or start collecting the data. It's a slow build at that point. They're great, but the long run, the dividends are going to pay less. Post purchase or back in stock automation. These things convert much better. And so think about the stages of intent with the customer journey, and that's where to focus on. Those are the things that are going to pay the biggest dividends for you. And if you're like, hey, you know what, Greg told me this welcome message is going to do great for me, doing okay, right? Those are places where I look at and go, okay, what about my welcome message? Could I maybe improve? Am I telling too much of the brand story? Do I focus it more on the sale, which I would absolutely recommend doing, right? Skip the brand story a little bit, but focus on those things. So follow the customer intent and let the automation at those high intent stages kind of drive your strategy forward. That's where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. And James, I didn't mention it before. I just want to throw some context out there for numbers. So anyone listening, on OmniSend's website, there's a resources section. There's a report section on there. We do not gate our reports, so you can just go and check them out. But you can find the stats report. We have an entire section of automation there that shows the conversion rates, the click-through rates. So you can look at the different automations and kind of use that as your starting gun and be like, okay, let's do that one next because that converts really well. And I'll give you a perspective on a cart abandonment here. So an average scheduled email conversion rate. So that's going to be conversions based on the number of emails sent, 0.07%. This is looking over billions of messages sent last year. A shopping cart abandonment message converts 2.87%. 2.87 compared to 0.07%. It's not the highest converting message. It's one of the best. It's not the highest converting one. So if you think about that from a conversion standpoint, say, okay, give me a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad that converts 2.87%. I'll tell you you're doing something right.
100%. Yeah, this is what we mean about leaving money on the table. It's those people that you are leaving behind if you don't follow them up with an email in their inbox. There's something else I want to touch on with you, Greg, because those resources are amazing. And having you on the podcast to be able to pluck out some of these amazing figures is so valuable for people to know about where they can invest their time most effectively. But I wonder if there is like a playbook for the best email strategy. So if you were to go into an OmniSend account and look at how many flows people have got set up, how many emails within those flows, what does their sign-up form look like, etc., etc. I wonder if the answer is probably quite complex potentially. Is there something that you would always set up and as a consultant, would you go in and say, look, this is what we need to do, how many flows you'd create, the type of sign-up form? Or, as you mentioned before, is it more so about having to test everything and there's no way of knowing until you just start adding in different flows one at a time and then just test from there?
Yeah, really good question, James. And I'll give you a kind of a variety of answers here. So as far as testing, you need some baselines of test. So get it going, get it automated, get the pop-up activated on your website, get the numbers, and then you can test from there for improvement. So don't let testing slow progress whatsoever. Just do it, right? Action better than no action. Better done than perfect, right? We talk about that internally a lot. So that's one answer. Two, I mentioned the stats reports. Baselines are always good to look at. Always benchmark against yourself. So be like, hey, I'm getting a 4% sign-up rate for an email collection, a 2% sign-up rate for mobile numbers. Be like, oh, the industry I read over here, or OmniSend clients gets a 6 and 4% respectively. I'm doing something wrong. Well, not necessarily. Your audience is different than everyone else's, but doesn't mean you can't improve. So benchmark against yourself. If you get a 4 and 2, try to get to a 4.5 and a 2.5, and then get from 4.5 to a 5, right? You benchmark against yourself and you test from there, but don't let anything slow you. So that's one, right? Benchmarks are good to look at. Benchmark against yourself more than anything else. Two, as far as doing things the right way, what I would recommend. Okay, first step, get a pop-up on your website activated. You can do that through OmniSend, literally 30 seconds, customize it if you want. Ask for email address, ask for mobile number, make mobile number optional. Right? You'll be amazed how many people will give it to you. This is a frustration I run into a lot. I did a whole podcast episode with someone on this where we just kind of bantered about this, but I don't care if it's a 1-step or a 2-step sign-up form where you get the email first, you take it into a second step. It's like, hey, join our SMS program too. What drives me nuts as a consumer is that like, hey, join our SMS program for 15% off. And I put my email address in there, and then it takes me to an SMS. He's like, for 15% off, put your mobile number in there. I'm like, well, some brands I may not subscribe to a lot, but some brands I don't want to get those SMS yet. And I close out and I don't get the incentive for the email. Drives me nuts. The other thing is when I get both of them on one form and I just enter email and hit submit, and it's like, nope, SMS is required. I'm like, I don't want it, right? And I will close out. There's a lot of frustration points there. So step one, I go into a brand's website, I get a pop-up going, I'm collecting email address, I'm collecting mobile numbers, but I'm making mobile number optional. I don't care if it's a 1-step form, 2-step form, doesn't matter to me. Both are great, right? It could be a Wheel of Fortune form, doesn't matter. But that's how I would operate. Sign up form, that's the first thing I would do, right? So James, I talk about the legs feeding the wolf a lot. Email addresses, mobile numbers, they feed the wolf of the machine, right? Email is going to starve if you don't have email addresses. So that's why I do that first. From there, my next step of the playbook is I go to those automations because they're effective. Welcome message, I want to do that first, right? Tie it into. Now, I can debate and do cart abandonment first because they're close to cash, right? These two things, flip a coin, one day I'll do one versus the other. But if I'm getting new email signups, I want to convert them at a high intent stage. I'm going to do welcome message. I'm going to get at least the first message sending, where the one thing I find a lot of brands, and they're doing it less now, but I find a lot of brands leave money on the table for is they make the welcome message about the brand, right? It's like, oh, our story is, and there's a long line of text or a lot of text and an image telling you all about how great the brand is and what made you start it. I think it's a poor decision to focus the first message on that. I think people, it sounds bad to say, but most people do not care about your brand story at this stage. They might care about parts of it, but they're already on your website. They have some semblance of what you're offering, what your brand's about. So that first message should be about selling. Hey, welcome to the family. Welcome to our email program. We're so glad you're here. Is there a special thanks? Here's 10% off your first order. Here's the code. If you don't offer a discount, see what all the fuss is about, why our customers love us. Suggest some top-rated products, right? Your 5-star products. Use social proof. Put a testimonial and focus on your value adds. We always offer free shipping on orders over 35, hassle-free returns, whatever your competitive differentiators are. Call to action. Boom. Message is done. It's selling. You can have a little blurb at the bottom about, hey, find out about our brand story, and then they can click and read more on your website. So that's where I go with the welcome message. That's my playbook for a welcome message. Add message 2 and 3 later if you want to. Those messages, I would say, should typically be about introducing products, customer favorites, top sellers, use more testimonials, any sort of social proof you have. Sell the products, introduce them. So that's where I go. You're probably good with 2 or 3 messages in the welcome. Anything more than that, you probably have a very specific niche that you're trying to fit into. to give more information. So that's where I go with the welcome message. Then I shoot to the abandoned cart.
Perfect. No, I was just going to jump in there and say it makes a lot of sense to be more commercial intent with that first welcome email, but the temptation is to overdo it or add too much to it and try and really to introduce them to the brand. But so it's interesting that your opinion is definitely to be quite commercial, especially with that first message, because a lot of times people have signed up because you've promised them a discount or because you've given them the incentive of why they should sign up in the first place. So yeah, just fascinating to hear that you'd go straight in for the jugular from the first email.
I would, man. I'm aggressive. I told you. But this is where the money is. This is where you're going to get your sales. Right now, if you have a fun brand, there's no reason you can't put your brand voice in that message. You can be commercial and funny at the same time, right? Plenty of brands do it. Use your brand voice. Use the images. Use whatever you want to. I mean, I've got some crazy welcome messages over the time, but it fits with the brand. So do it by all means, right? But still introduce the products and still introduce that shop now call to action. So cart abandonment, simple. Again, start with one message, add on as you go. We already talked about, I would do 4. That's the next step I would do though. Get that first one sending at least. If you're only sending one, you might just want to be more conservative and go, okay, let's send that 1 hour afterward. I say 30 minutes, still do 30 minutes, but 1 hour if you only have one message. These are even more straightforward, right? Notice you left something in your cart, get them, use some sort of sense of urgency in there. These products won't last long. Get them while you last, or get them before we run out, something like that. You want it. Product, call to action, boom, reinforce those value adds, free shipping, returns, whatever matters to your customers. And just rinse and repeat that series. Slightly change the messages, slightly change the subject line, but the crux of those abandoned cart messages is going to be mostly the same. So here's the product, get it fast. Here's why you should get it fast. Call to action. And then I do the browse abandonment. That fills in the gaps, right? So I get your welcome message. I'm on your website. I don't cart products yet. Anyone in that middle area, this is where the browse abandonment fills in. That's what I do. I think for the most part, 1 to 2 messages on a browse abandonment series is probably all you need. You can have a third. Now, there's 2 different strategies with browse abandonment or product abandonment. Both are fine. Both work. The difference is browse. Think about a category. I go to men's shoes. I get a browse abandonment for men's shoes, right? It's not product specific. And this is, again, borrow the same content you have from the welcome message, operated men's shoes, different category of men's shoes, customer favorites, whatever it might be. Product abandonment is, here's a specific product someone viewed. Let's send them a message about that product. So you might have a seasonal line, you might have top sellers or really high margin products that you might not get a ton of views for, but you want to sell them because you've got an 80% margin on those things, right? They're money makers. This is where you can automate a single message based on that particular product to go out to someone that gives more information about the product. Hey, do you know it's got these 5 great features or blah, 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 and then do it from there. I think for browse abandonment, 1 to 2 messages for most brands will probably be just suited. You can always do more. The more is generally reserved for those maybe more complex products or more things where there's more nuance to them, right? Different features or specs or how-tos or use cases, stuff like that. So that would be my initial playbook. Again, I'm focused on those 3 automations, but that's where my money makes.
Yeah, it's just effectively using your time to really just focus on where the biggest money makers are. But that is the ultimate playbook to get started with email, I'd say, is the first day of getting set up. And if you've got those first automations live, you put yourself in a great position. Something else I just want to touch on quickly, because you mentioned that you would leave it optional for people to leave their mobile number, and which I think is a great idea and brings us into SMS marketing. So when you optionally collect them, maybe 50% of people or less, maybe in the UK, we're a bit more conservative with, I think, giving away our phone numbers, but you will inevitably capture people's phone numbers. What's the benefits behind capturing people's phone numbers for SMS marketing?
I would relate it very much to email. It's still a first-party channel. It's opt-in. They're only opting into if they want to receive it. Now, I would say if they opt into your SMS program, they might be deal hunters. But even in the US, like I sign up for a lot of SMS. I do it both for consumer purposes, but also for work. I go to some brands' websites and I'm like, not yet, right? And I'll do the email, but I won't do the SMS. So even where like I've got a separate phone number through Google Voice where I opt in SMS things from just to keep my phone a little cleaner because I do a lot of them. Even then, I choose not to do some brands, at least yet. So what I would say here is think about if I do sign up for SMS, the brand might have an indication that, hey, this guy might be a better customer than Joe Blow over here, right? So there's a little bit of maybe affinity with the brand that could be led into it. But the first party opt-in channel it's like email is the biggest one. Direct line of communication, can't take it away from me unless they lose their phone, they get a new phone number. But that's, or they decide they want to opt out. The other thing I would say, and this is something that people rarely talk about, is people are always going to unsubscribe from me. Nature of the beast. This is why you always need to refill those email addresses. Well, the same thing's going to be true for SMS. Now, SMS is becoming a more preferred channel. So if you've got my mobile number and my email address, and I decide that email is no longer my jam, and I unsubscribe, most brands are going to go, well, we lost email address, but we could do our lookalike audience and we can retarget them over here again for higher cost. Well, now you have my SMS, my mobile number. You can still target me. You have all my email data hooked up, my Shopify data hooked up with that mobile number. It's all in one place. You could still automate or send promotional messages that we know will be read. They could still fill that funnel. So it's not a replacement to email, but it's a pretty good complement to email from that perspective. And the unsubscribe from the email, but staying opted into the SMS is something that no one ever talks about, but it could save you money down the road. So that's why they should get into it. Now, the other thing is automations. Automations for SMS perform exceptionally well, better than campaign SMS, just like email does. And the reason is that customer intent, right? Same story. I'm going to say it 50 times a day. Customer intent. Follow the intent there. So conversion rates for automated SMS are more than double of a campaign message. So 0.13 for a campaign, 0.28 for SMS. These things are good. They work, and you can integrate them into the exact same workflow as your email campaign. So you just drag the node over, stick it where you want. You can split it. You can have different paths for SMS and email subscribers, email only or SMS only subscribers. You can customize it. And generally, if you just have one path, tools like OmniSend will go, okay, not an SMS subscriber, just skip that step and move on to the next one. So you don't have to worry about having different workflows for different audiences. It's all at one single canvas.
Brilliant. I think that's the speed is really essential there, because if you've got your email set up, it's very quick to integrate and have SMS set up as well, to all within the same package. So just closing out on this conversation today, Greg, I'd like to ask you about OmniSend and why people would consider using it over other competitors in the market, other email service providers. Why would you specifically recommend that people would choose OmniSend?
One, I'll give you the shameless plug because I work there, but I've been around the space. I mentioned 18 years. I've worked for different providers. It's a really good tool. It really is. And it's cost effective. So we've got everything a business needs, whether you are a solopreneur, whether you have a really small team, or you are a large company. We fit all those needs there. And that's how we built. Again, we're customer funded, so that's why we built it out. We have everything you need. We have pop-ups. We integrate with Shopify. I mentioned you can integrate a store within a matter of minutes. Plug and play. Have the data coming over. We have robust segmentation, including pre-built segments that you can just copy. Again, we talk about doing things easily. You do it. Have all the workflows you needed to. Customizable templates. We have email templates, drop and drag templates. We even have hundreds of pre-built themed templates. So you need a Father's Day one, a Mother's Day one, a Christmas one, whatever it is, Thanksgiving one if you market in the US, or even, if you do Thanksgiving, US holiday, but you're marketing over in the UK. Right? We have all these things built for you. So you can just plug and play. So there's nothing you can't do. I say that, but there's nothing you can't do inside of OmniSend that you could do anywhere else. And we're just cheap, right? For most companies. So we don't lock you into year-long contracts unless you want to. We're month to month, cancel at any time. We have a free plan. So if you want to test this out, free. I mentioned no credit card required to sign up for that either. So use the free plan as long as you like, and then you can just slowly build from time to time. If you want to see how pricing compares, by the way, we have a free price comparison tool on our website. You can select the different email providers that you want to compare against, and we'll break it down for you, cost, benefits, things you get in there. It makes it super easy for you, which price comparison is always one of the biggest frustration points when you're looking at different platforms. So we're like, hey, let's make it easy for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's very, very transparent and very helpful to see what the differences are. But yeah, having that nice low barrier to entry free trial to give it a go, I think is fantastic, and people will definitely be making the most of it. So thank you, Greg, for sharing your insights today. That playbook is incredibly valuable for people getting started with their email marketing. So thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Happy to be here, James. Thank you for having me. And I'll just say for anyone out there that wants to reach out, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me sending all the normal channels. We're open books. We're friendly people. Come on over.
Wow, Lewis, I thoroughly enjoyed that session with Greg there, packed with actionable advice. I think it's clear, if you didn't know this before the podcast episode, that now we all understand that mastering email marketing is more crucial than ever for e-commerce success.
Definitely loved Greg's session. Thank you to Greg for that amazing breakdown of integrating email with other communication channels like SMS and push notifications. Just shows how dynamic and powerful these tools can be when they're used and implemented correctly. So it's all about creating a conversation with our customers, not just a campaign. So really enjoyed it today.
Yeah, really great session. And for our members as well, Greg has also gone on to record some more content that we'll be holding in the members only area. So, I mean, Greg, very generous with his time and very generous with the insights that he shared. So there's loads of insights and strategies that we can implement straight away from this episode.
Definitely. For anyone looking to implement these strategies, combining Greg's expert advice with the structured methods in my book at htabook.com will set you up for success. Whether you're just starting out or perhaps you're looking to refine your approach, htabook.com has the resources to make it happen. So let's put these insights into action and transform your e-commerce game.
Enjoying the podcast? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a review, and we might just feature it on an upcoming episode. Also, for detailed show notes and resources, head to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast.
If you found value from any episode of this podcast, please take just 10 seconds to leave us a quick 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. It helps us more than you could imagine, and who knows, you might just hear your comments on the show. Thanks for being part of our community. Your support helps us keep delivering a new episode every week.
Now it's time to answer a question that we've had in from a listener of the podcast. So I will ask you this question, Lewis. But first, a quick reminder for you listening or watching today. If you have a question and you want it to be answered on an upcoming podcast episode, then all you need to do is ask your question in a YouTube comment beneath the YouTube video version of this episode. So that's exactly what Rosie B has done. And she has asked, have you ever tried to use this model outside the UK?
Great question. Thank you for this, Rosie. And to address your question directly, no, I haven't personally used this model outside the UK, but I've got many friends who have and still successfully run businesses using this exact model in Germany, in Canada, in the US. So it definitely works in other markets as well. The primary reason for me not having done that is that the UK market for e-commerce is vast and it's robust. And there's so many opportunities here, and I'm already a resident here. It just seemed like not introducing additional complexities for me was a wise move when I started. And I realized that even when I started an e-commerce business here, I was only scratching the surface of the potential opportunities without having to even expand internationally. So you can certainly reach 6-7 figures annually with one of these businesses without even having to think about looking outside the borders of the UK. So it's definitely possible. But yeah, absolutely. Expanding into international markets introduces other opportunities, but it does come with complexities as well. You've got different regulations, you've got different tax implications, different logistical challenges. You might have to register companies in the markets you want to there. You've got to get bank accounts there. So these factors can complicate the business model, and it kind of diverts your focus away from just growing the business. You know, the tactics that we know are proven to work well inside the UK market start to get diluted if you introduce the complexities of trying to introduce international trade as well. So it's important to note that the principles of our business model are universal and they can indeed be applied into many countries. The key factor is to ensure that the market you choose has sufficient demand. That's the key thing. Make sure the customers in the market you're looking to sell to are looking for the products that you're considering selling and that you have adequate suppliers there to create a nice diversified range of products that you're selling. That means verifying there's at least 3 direct competitors already successfully operating in that space, in the market, in the country that you're looking to sell in. So for anyone who's considering this route, our masterclass program in week 2, we extensively cover how to choose a winning niche, and you can apply those same criteria to other markets as well. It includes strategies for assessing your market size, looking at competitor presence, identifying how you find competitors, how you validate them, and ensuring that you can apply these principles effectively, whether in the UK or abroad.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Lewis. I think there's a reason why it's called the home turf advantage and not called specifically just the UK advantage, because it can be used in other markets. It's just about the size of the market that we're going into. And because we are residents in the UK and because we know the UK market is massive and can sustain large businesses, that's why we've decided to apply it to the UK. But absolutely used and relevant to be used in other countries as well. So time now as well to highlight a recent review that we've had in for the podcast. And a big thank you to JJ Idea for the YouTube comment. So they have said, brilliant advice. I feel not alone watching your videos.
Well, thank you so much for your review, JJ. We really appreciate it. Your feedback motivates us to keep sharing valuable insights. Now, if you know someone who might benefit from this podcast, please do share it with them. Helping others get started on their dropshipping journeys is what we're all about here, and your recommendation could make a big difference to them.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you're walking away with insights and inspiration.
To kickstart your e-commerce journey, grab a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, at htabook.com. It's a distilled guide based on real experience to help you build your e-commerce venture.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more strategies and success stories. And if you like what you heard, a 5-star review would mean the world to us, and you might just get a shout out on an upcoming episode.
And finally, thank you for deciding to spend your time with us today. We can't wait to bring you more insights on the next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.